Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated Legacy action. Today we are playing a donation deck, and this is a bit of a fun one. I helped brew it with the person who submitted the donation deck in the first place, and we're calling this one Robotguy Ale. So we're kind of like a deadguy ale deck in a lot of ways. You know, we've got our Stoneforge Mystics, we've got our disruptive elements and our removal here, like the good stuff from Black White basically. However, we're not running Dark Confident, we are running Ratchet Field Medic. So if you're not familiar with this one, there's a lot of text on it, so bear with us. So it's a 3-mana 2/4 with lifelink. Whenever you gain life, you may flip it and return an artifact from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped, as long as it's got the convert mana cost equal to or less than the amount of life you gained. Then when it's a car, whenever an artifact you control is put into a graveyard, it flips back. But you can only trigger that once per turn. But you can bring back 2 artifacts in 1 turn. So we've got a lot of stuff to go with this, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's just talk about the nuts and bolts of the deck, right? So we've got ourselves some Urza Sagas in our deck, which has also got some things we'll talk about in a minute in terms of things we can get back. This seems like a good fit for Ratchet because it can find stuff that Ratchet can abuse and get a lot of value from. We've got a lot of good removal here. So we've got 4 Swords of Plowshares, we've got a couple of Prismatic Endings, we've got these Thoughtseizes, which, you know, stand out black card in Legacy, and we have a couple of Executioner's Capsules. These are removal that generally is going to be pretty good, but sometimes can be a little bit awkward if your opponent's got black creatures, obviously. So we only really want 2 of them, but with Ratchet, it just gives us an ability to just keep killing their guys over and over again. Then we've got some pretty good just white creatures here. So we've got 3 Esper Sentinel and 3 Ethersworn Canonist. These are what we could fit in the deck. Possibly there should be a 4th Esper Sentinel. I sort of went back and forth on that one a little bit, but we ended up with this because we've got a bunch of 1-drops here and some other bits and pieces we'll talk about in a sec. So these are just good disruptive creatures that can really mess with some decks and buy us some cards or some time. Then we have our 4 Stoneforge Mystic. This is probably going to be our main way of winning the game a lot of times. This and Urza Saga. This is going to be finding us. We got Batterskull here. We got a Kaldra. We got a Jitte, and we've got 1 Shadowspear that also can be got off of Urza Saga. So we've got a full-on 4-piece package here because our creatures need a little bit of help, to be honest. And I'll explain why we've got these in a second when we get to talking about Ratchet a bit more. We've also got 2 Phyrexian Fleshgorger, which is just another threat we have that has lifelink, so it can trigger Ratchet. I wanted to give this a go. Seems unlikely we're going to be able to bring this back by gaining 7 life, but it's not impossible. So maybe we can. But generally this is going to be a 3-mana 3/3 that can gain us some life. It's going to mess with our opponent in terms of making them lose a load of life to remove it. And we're kind of like an aggro deck, so them losing life is pretty good for us. But it's just a cool card that doesn't see a lot of play, and I want to give it a go here. It's got some nice synergy with what we're trying to accomplish. So, let's talk about what we're doing with Ratchet. So, you need things to make this gain life, right? So, what do we have? Shadowspear. That's a pretty good one. Batterskull. Again, a pretty good one. Gaining 4 life means we can get back some pretty interesting things, right? We can get back our Canonists here. We can get back some of our equipment if it's been destroyed. We can obviously get back all the 1-drops that we're mainly trying to combo with it. So, there's that. And it's, you know, it's just a good equipment, right? It's going to be a big win condition for us. Umezawa's Jitte. This can gain us life. We can stack up a bunch of counters and gain a load of life in 1 turn. So the way this is worded is it's a when you do equals the life you've gained this turn. So it's not the life that flips it that you get it. It's all the life you've gained this turn. So you can gain some life, and then with this trigger on a stack, gain some more life, etc., etc. So you can remove a bunch of counters to gain 8 life and bring back a Phyrexian Fleshgorger. That's something I'd like to do today. Whether it will happen, I don't know. Shadowspear, just sticking this on a construct, can get us some stuff back with the Ratchet in play. Now, the other thing the deck wants is some cool stuff that you can keep replaying, and stuff that also goes to the graveyard, I'm saying. We've already discussed the Executioner's Capsule, but we've got a few other ones here. So Mishra's Bauble and Urza's Bauble. We've just split them for the purposes of Pith Needle here. That's probably wrong, but we're going to try it like this and see how it feels. So these are ones that, with Ratchet in play, we can just be drawing an extra card every turn. And because this sacrifices, it means it's just a free way of flipping it from the Rescue Racer to the Field Medic. We also have a Lotus Petal, which can be a recurring little bit of additional mana if we need that. Maybe this is a bit greedy and we don't need this, but I thought we'd put it in there and see how it felt. This is kind of new territory, so exploring a lot of things and seeing how it feels. We have this Implement of Improvement. This is the person who submitted the donation deck. They're pretty big up on this card, and having a look at it, I can see why. So this sacrifices and gains life. So it does both the things that Ratchet wants you to do. And it draws you cards. So this is a bit of an engine. And because it doesn't need to tap to sacrifice it, the coming into play tapped from the Ratchet clause is not going to affect it. So you can just get this in, crack it, and keep flipping your guy. And because the Rescue Racer is only a creature on your turn, sometimes you can flip it into a non-creature to stop your opponent being able to remove it, which is pretty cool. Obviously, they can still remove it on your turn, though. So that's a pretty interesting one. Now we have some Graveyard Hate, because Graveyard Hate is pretty good. We have Urza Saga, and we're playing black mana, so Nihil Spellbomb is slightly better than the Soul Guide, because you can get to remove their graveyard and draw a card. It's not an either or. So this is what we're doing with that. It's also a pretty good thing to keep recurring. It draws you cards. There's a theme there. We also have a Haywire Mite, a very good thing to find off of Urza Saga if you've got green mana. Can answer a lot of problem permanents. Also, it sacrifices without needing to tap, and it gains you life. So it does the things that Ratchet wants you to do here, and we can hopefully just use this to machine gun down a bunch of permanents in some matchups. And then the last card we have here is a bit of a spicy one. This is Necrogen Spellbomb. So it's a Spellbomb that can draw a card, which is fine. If we're looping it with Ratchet, that's okay. But what it does as well is sacrifices to make target player discard a card. Now you can use this at any time. So the idea is, once your opponent kind of doesn't have anything going on in their hand, or they're hellbent or whatever, you start doing your whole Ratchet thing with your Necrogen Spellbomb, and all you do is, in your opponent's draw step, you discard the card they draw every turn, and then they never get to play anything at sorcery speed for the rest of the game, and you're just discarding everything out of their hand. So that's kind of where we want to get them when they're hellbent, and just kind of lock them out of the game. So it's kind of like a soft lock, but it's pretty good. It does get broken up by instant speed removal that they can draw, but you can't have everything, right? So it's a pretty cool combo. Against a lot of decks, we might just be able to lock people out, and that'd be pretty fun. I'd like to try and do that one time this league as well. So those are the objectives, to try and bring back a Fleshgorger and also Spellbomb lock somebody. So the deck's very, very rough at this point. We haven't really had a chance to test it with some games, but I'm just going to see how it goes. I think there's going to be a lot of room for improvement, and we're going to learn a lot, which is kind of a really fun thing that you can do when you're playing stuff for the first time. Sideboard-wise, we'll have a quick chat about this. Deafening Silence, obviously Storm decks, has a little bit of utility in reanimated matchups as well. We've got these dresses, any sort of combo decks that are relying on spells, as well as control decks that we need to punch holes in. This is something we can rely on sometimes. A couple of Plague Engineers, just a nice hammer piece against things like elves. Another Haywire Mite, because when it's good, it's going to be really good, so we're going to want more of that effect. We have 2 Nihil Spellbomb and 2 Soul Guide Lantern. So we're choosing these for our Graveyard Hate pieces because they're so good with what our deck's trying to do. Now, should they be Leyline? Probably. But we're trying to really go deep in the old Ratchet Field Medic hole here and see what we can get with it. We also have an interesting one in 2 Powder Keg. This is very good against decks with artifact lands and lots of 0-drops, like 8 cast, for example, because this does hit lands. It just blows up artifacts and creatures. Also, this is something we can recur with Ratchet in that matchup as well, because Ratchet conveniently gains you 2 life when he connects, which is enough to bring back a Powder Keg, and then in your upkeep you can then blow this up after it's untapped and before you get the counter on it, and blow up all their 0-drops again and just never allow your opponent to sort of get out. So it's almost like a bit of a lock against some of the 8-cast decks. And that's pretty much what we're trying to do today. It's going to be a bit of a spicy one. If we can get a positive record, that'd be amazing, but we'll see how we go. Before we jump into the league, if you could like, comment and subscribe, it's a free way of helping my channel out, and it really does help out, so I appreciate that. Also, sharing my content with people who might also be interested in Legacy is nice to sort of have a wider community and get more people interested in the format. Alright, let's jump into a Legacy League with Robotguy Ale. This is our opener. We've got some interesting tools. We've got something against control. We've got something against aggro decks. We've got something against some of the decks that create non-creature permanents. And we have the Transformer. So I think we're going to keep this one. And we have 2 lands to play our things as well. Now we need another land to... We don't necessarily need another land for the Ratchet, because you can play it for the backside for 2 mana. An Unmask, targeting themselves. There's a Grizzlebrand. Oakley dokily. They're going to reanimate the Grizzlebrand. So they get 1 more grip of 7 cards here. Do they get to put another monster into play? How dead are we? Do I wish we had Leylines instead of all these little 1-mana artifact rocks? I think so. Do I think I can beat their 7 cards? Possibly. It's not impossible, is it? Would I rather show them a Plains or a Savannah here? I think I probably need the Savannah here. I think they're looking at some sort of Maverick deck maybe. Just in case this game does go longer. Like if their follow-up is going to involve a Animate Dead, then we might be able to get them with a Haywire Mite here. We're going to plow this in combat. They can just reanimate it. So they can just reanimate another creature this turn because we know they've got a reanimate in hand. But they have to put something in the bin first. Alright. They're going to see some spicy stuff on our side. I think we can beat a reanimated Grief, so we're just going to let this hit us. Rather than conceal the information. They're going to see it at some point, right? Our opponent's taken quite a while with this. Probably because they're reading Ratchet, which is fair enough. There's a lot of text on that card. Alright, so they took the Haywire Mite, which makes me think that they might have an Animate Deadline coming. Or they just think the rest of our cards are pretty blank and they don't really care. Entomb. Into Reanimate. What are they going to find here? An Archon of Cruelty. Sure. We've got answers for this. We can find another Swords to Plowshares. Our Executioner's Capsule is not going to do any work here. Stoneforge Mystic. What does this do? Not a lot. I don't think it's worth playing out. So I think it's worth using it to thin, because it's going to die to the Archon of Cruelty. I think it's worth thinning out a Shadowspear from our deck or something like that. Probably take the Jitte. We're not going to be using that. That just gives us a card to pitch and makes our deck slightly more likely to draw us a Source of Plowshares. It's a very minimal chance, but... So we're going to lose this Stoneforge. We didn't get something like a Kaldra because we're not going to be able to put it in because our guy's going to keep dying. Yep, here comes the big boy. So we're going to take a chunk this turn and we're dead on the next swing. So we need to find it this next coming turn. They're up to 9, so they can reanimate a Grief if they want to. I don't think that's necessary, but they might do it anyway. Dark Ritual, they might just be hard casting a Grief here. Okay, we've got an Entomb. Another Archon of Cruelty. Each player gets a creature back. Okay, I'll get this Stoneforge Mystic back. Or I can get the Haywire Mite and gain 2 life. But that means we're still dead anyway. So this comes in, we sacrifice this, we gain 2 life. And I guess we get rid of this, it doesn't really matter. I don't know how we... I think we're just dead here, right? If we Source Plowshares this, we're still dead. Okay. So, not ideal. But we've got some tools to work with. Some discard spells. Some hand disruption. I think we're going to want these prismatic endings. This is not going to be an Umezawa's Jitte game. We're kind of going to win with whatever's left over, and that's fine. The Executioner's Capsules don't hit anything. We could bring in these Deafening Silences. That's an option we have. The Haywire Mite can blow up a thing sometimes. I don't think we need the Implement to grind away with. I don't think that's what this is about. We're just going to kind of win with whatever pieces we have. Kaldra is a nice one that we can find, and then if they show and tell, we can get that in. I don't really want the Fleshgorger because that gives them a target that they can reanimate from us, which means we probably have space for a Deafening Silence. Do we want additional Deafening Silences here? Obviously not as good as the other things we're bringing in. We already have the Canonist. I think we can probably swap a Shadowspear for a Deafening Silence. Maybe a Ratchet. It's probably not going to be a grindy Ratchet game, although it does give us reusable Graveyard Hate, which is not nothing. Alright, we're going to submit like this. Our opponent is going to board in Show and Tell, so we definitely need our hand disruption to be on point here. Okay. Is a single Duress into Stoneforge Mystic good enough? It might be. And then we're going to go Duress, Esper Sentinel off of the Lotus Petal. So might as well get Scrubland here. They do sometimes run Mages of the Moon. I don't know why they would necessarily run that against us, but it's free for us to play around it. So I think we should. Let's Duress our opponent. How good is their hand? Chromox, Fatal Push, Lotus Petal. Passageway Sit. They've boarded into dungeons. That can't be right. Interesting. We can take their fast mana. We can take their Thoughtseize. Interesting. I think we beat this sort of stuff most of the time. This is an interesting choice. If we take the Thoughtseize, if they want to Chromox, they're going to have to either put one of their threats or their Fatal Push away. If we take the Fatal Push, we get to keep our thing. It's a case of which one do we want to actually get rid of here. So we'll take the Thoughtseize here. I'll play this Lotus Petal. We'll play this out. I imagine their turn will just be play Chromox paying mana. But I could be wrong. There's Verdant Catacombs. They're cracking it. Right, they're paying for this. If they put Passageway Seer underneath this, they might Fatal Push our Esper Sentinel now, which would be great for us. Okay, they drew an Unmask for the turn. There's the Fatal Push. Sure. This is working out pretty well for us. A Kaldra should race these guys most of the time. This is an interest. So our opponent is on Black White Reanimator rather than sort of the standard show and tell pivots from the sideboard, which is interesting. They've just gone like play a bunch of guys. But I think the problem with Reanimator is it's not always good at hitting all of its land drops, as you can quite clearly see. Okay, so let's put this in this way. Go to attacks, get bash in, and now we've got the graveyard covered with this. I don't think it really matters what we remove there. Right, so they've got the lands. They can play a Seasoned Dungeoneer, but if they introduce the initiative into the game when they're already behind and I have a Kaldra, that's probably going to be quite good for us. Especially since they're going to have to burn their Lotus Petal for it. They will get a land back off of it, so they will be able to then play the next one. Right, they're going for the lifelinking one. Sure. So this is going to be a 3/3 end of turn, so our creature will trample over. A Duress. I think it's free to fire this one off. We know 2 of our opponent's cards, okay. So it's just Swamp and Seasoned Dungeoneer left. Attacks. Attack with our big boy. And we'll get Swamp, I guess. We'll play our Swamp out. Post combat. If we need to, we can cash in the Saga Lantern for a card. We can stop our opponent taking the initiative back. And then make our Phyrexian Germ bigger if we would like. Or we can scry. It's not really going to affect the clock either way. Depending on what our opponent does this turn, I may crack the Saga Lantern to draw a card. Because just a piece of removal should be pretty good here. Now the problem is, in game 3 on the play, they go back to their old strategy most likely, which is one that we can't interact with until our turn 1. So I think they'll get us with the Reanimate plan. Alright, so they're going to get the initiative back by playing a Seasoned Dungeoneer. Sure. I think they probably want to attack first, in case they can get the initiative back that way, and they can get 2 jumps through the room. So this way they're going to try and get... Alright, so I think we're going to draw a card here. And we will cast Swords to Plowshares targeting this. Mishra's Bauble. Sure. Let's see the top card of our opponent's library. It's a Reanimate. Interesting. We don't have anything good they can Reanimate. We can't ever block the Seasoned Dungeoneer anyway, so let's just crash in for 5. We become the Monarch. I think we forge up this turn. Doesn't matter which one we forge up here. We'll forge up this one. So the reason for this, if they play Esper, so if they attack with this and play the, and then reanimate the Esper Sentinel in our graveyard, then we kill them because these aren't in their hands anymore. So just have the reanimate on top, and we draw a Swords to Plowshares. All right, this game is fine. I think we can even let the Seasoned Dungeoneer hit us, perhaps. Maybe not. I don't know. All right, they've conceded that one. Now they go back to their reanimate plan, and they absolutely bop us senseless, unfortunately. I don't think we can beat that plan very well. But we'll give it a go. Maybe they'll keep a hand with some protection. Maybe they're really committed to their other line. They want to test it out. This is a perfectly serviceable hand in any other matchup. All right. We have removal if they're on the initiative plan. We have graveyard hate if they're on the graveyard plan. But we have to get to our turn 1 for this to mean anything. We'll keep this and we'll bottom the Spellbomb. This way, when they discard our Soulguide Lantern on turn 1, we can at least Esper Sentinel and have something going on. Just going to be a Dark Ritual. Just a Thoughtseize. So we're going to lose either Swords to Plowshares or Soulguide Lantern, depending on which plan they're on now. Let's find out. That wasn't the one I was expecting. Interesting. So we will play this Soulguide Lantern. Get rid of this Thoughtseize out of our opponent's graveyard. Play this Lotus Petal in case we need to source to Plowshares something. And pass our turn. Next turn, maybe we should have started off with a Saga there. But if we start off with a Saga and we have to source Plowshares this turn, then it's really bad for us. Agademe. Interesting. A Thoughtseize. So we lose our source to Plowshares. They know about that source to Plowshares though. This is kind of an awkward one, isn't it? Alright. I think we are going to... Yeah, if we'd have got a black source with this in the first turn, we'd be right. We are going to duress our opponent here. Just a fatal push. So Grief and Seasoned Engineer is what they're working with. And then we're about to get our Urza Saga up and running. See, this is what I mean about trying to make 4 drops in the Reanimator deck. It doesn't do that. It plays a 1-drop and a 2-drop maybe, and then that gives them a massive creature. They're not like a Soul Land deck. Let's play this one out. We just crack it now for reasons. Let's get Bayou. Our opponent hasn't shown us any red mana. I don't think they're going to be on any sort of Blood Moon's shenanigans over there. So we get to start making guys and making inroads into actually winning the game now. And our opponent's still 2 mana away from making either of these. And one of them isn't even very scary right now. Let's make our guy. Let's make another guy. What is useful here to me? I do like drawing extra cards. Having more graveyard coverage is also reasonably nice. I don't think we're definitely not on for the Spellbomb. For the Necrogen Spellbomb. I don't think that's where we want to be yet. I think we'll just take the... Maybe we'll take the Bauble here. Got another Urza Saga. Play this out. Attack for 5. Next turn we attack for lethal. If our opponent does something that makes us want to crack this Bauble, sure. But we're not casting any spells until our next turn anyway. So we don't need to crack the Bauble until at least our opponent's end step. But if we leave it in play, it just gives us more damage. Alright, our opponent's considered. I think our opponent's sideboard plan here doesn't work very well because, again, you're trying to cast 4 drops in your deck that's designed to cast 1 and 2 drops. And yes, you've got Dark Ritual, but you don't have Soul Lands. Now, if your sideboard package has got like 4 Ancient 2-minute as well, then maybe that's the thing you can think about because it goes with your fast mana a bit better. But otherwise, that seems a bit loose to me, especially since like this plan isn't even that good a lot of the time. Alright, let's go to round 2. We are 1-0. Our mana makes this hand unplayable, so we're going to mulligan. Yeah. Our hand does some stuff. If Urza Saga's good in this matchup, then we are away. Question is, what do we throw back? And that is a tricky question. Is it the Thoughtseizes? Is it one of the Thoughtseizes or is it the Executioner's Capsule? I think I'm going to get rid of a Capsule. Sorry, just having a chat with our opponent there. Uh-oh, a Grief. Good grief. Are we about to get windmilled pretty hard here? Could be another Reanimate deck. Hopefully they'll sideboard into a really bad strategy and we can beat them. That would be nice. But I suspect not. A Scrubland. Feels like Reanimates. Okay, this isn't so bad. This could go worse for us. So we have an interesting choice with our first turn. If we don't draw any interesting plays, we might be tempted to play an Urza Saga just so we can go get Graveyard Hate to stop the next slew of things from our opponent. Yeah, I think we're on playing out this Urza Saga. This can get us some Graveyard Hate in a couple of turns' time. So if our opponent is going to struggle to find a way of putting a big creature in, then all we have to do is answer the Grief. Or get a creature that can beat the Grief in combat. Obviously you need 2 creatures with Menace, but things with holding Jittes or any other lifelink is going to be pretty effective at stopping that. So if we can draw Stoneforge Mystic next turn, that'd be pretty good. Our opponent, are they casting another Grief? They are casting another Grief. Okay, that does obviously change the clock a fair bit. Okay, so we're going to take a bash for 3. Our opponent doesn't really know what our deck does. They've just seen like some good cards. They haven't seen our slightly more interesting cards. Fleshgorger. We're going to struggle to get the black from it. We can always get a Lotus Petal from this if you want the black mana. I guess we'll play this out now and see what the lay of the land is when it gets to our turn next. A 3/3 lifelink is going to offset some of what our opponent's doing, but probably not enough. A Verdant Catacombs. We don't need a Lotus Petal because we have another black source here. So we'll just float mana here. We can't get Shadowspear to double up, but I guess we can go and get the Nihil Spellbomb here. We can get Implement of Improvement to gain a little bit of life here. So what's this clock? So we're going to take 2 and go to 9. But then this is going to gain us some life, hopefully. So we'll go to 9, then we'll take 6. Gain 3. So we do need something that gains us life, actually. Interesting. Let's get a weird card out. So our opponent's probably reading what this card does. So we'll go and get a Scrubland and a Bayou, I think. Cast with Prototype. Just makes the frame all weird looking. Alright. So they can crack us for 6 and put us to 6. But then we can gain 3 and then gain another 2. So we're not dead on the next turn. So we've got another draw to find something. We're probably going to find an Executioner's Capture and feel pretty bad about it. But I think getting the Implement of... Ooh. Alright. They don't have any cards in hand, so this isn't necessarily going to come into play straight away. An Archon of Cruelty. Sure. If they find a Reanimate now, then we die. Their deck does have quite a lot of ways of reanimating creatures, so it's not out of the realms of possibility they kill us this turn. But I think we had to play to beat what was in front of us, rather than try and get a line and just assume we're going to draw something to beat what we've got here. This gives us 2 draws, 3 draws actually, to find 2 draws for turn and 1 draw for the implement to find a way out of this predicament. Which is something. I'll take that. We can't block this because it's just menace guys attacking each other. That's the life we lead. What are we looking for? A Canonist. We could double block one of these, but then we'd lose our guy and that's not going to help us out. So I think we're going to sacrifice this and gain 2 life. Probably should have played the Savannah first. We might be wanting to play the Urza Saga here. We should play the Urza Saga. Next turn we can get a token and double block and gain some life. Yeah, it's kind of awkward that we had to use that white mana for it. Is that going to be better than an Ethersworn Canonist? I don't think so. Sure, we'll play another one of these. So this will put us to 8, so we can take another hit. And then if we can draw a Source of Plowshares, we might be able to stabilize. Otherwise, we can make an Urza Saga construct and double block one of the Griefs. We'll trade our Phyrexian Fleshgorger for it, though. But that might be a play we have to make. The fact that this game is still going on is... Oh. Sure. Right. That's the end of that one. Okay, sideboarding. Nihil Spellbomb, Saga Lanterns, yes please. Duresses, yes please. These Prismatic Endings I don't think are very good. Deafening Silences are a thing where we had last time as well. We're not into Necrogen Spellbomb. We probably don't have time to do Implement grinding, and one of Ratchet's probably not good. We don't want to give them Fleshgorger to reanimate. What else we got here? The Jitte is probably not where we want to be either. I don't mind the Canonist. The Petal can maybe that's deployed 2 pieces of Graveyard Hate at a time. Executioner's Capsule seems bad, and that seems to fit relatively nicely into 60 there. So let's submit this one. We are a black-white fair deck, so we're going to struggle against some of these really unfair decks, like Reanimator. But that is unfortunately the nature of the beast. We want to sort of make the game go a bit longer and get our grind on. Alright. We have a piece of Graveyard Hate, and then we have a Duress to follow up with. We will keep this. So I think this gets us a Scrubland. And then we'll play out our Nihil Spellbomb. That shuts off their easiest route to putting a creature in, and then the Duress hopefully shuts off the show and tell line. Alright, our opponent is just going to clean up to put a Grizzlebrand in. A little bit rude. Let's Thoughtseize our opponent. Duress our opponent, sorry. Not Thoughtseize. What do we have here? Animate Dead, Entomb, Exhume, Dark Ritual. Alright. They've got an Archon of Cruelty as well. Interesting. I guess we're taking the Entomb here. Stop them getting a second creature. And then we have the black mana for the Nihil Spellbomb. Alright. So there's the Badlands. Kind of need to keep up this the whole time, but that's not actually a problem considering we have the third land in hand. Let's trap this. We don't really need that much green mana, to be honest. But I'll still guess. Do we want to play around Blood Moon? No, I think we're probably okay against Blood Moon anyway. I guess it's free for us to get planes here. Now we are the beatdown. I'm going to crack this fetch hand now. Just to stop any potential shenanigans coming along. And we might as well get a basic swamp. It's more or less free for us, I think. We don't have a Haywire Mite. Maybe we're supposed to get a Bayou there, but... Right, so drew a swamp. So if they reanimate Grizzlebrand, we will exile this. We will draw the card. Alright. Let's take another peek at what our opponent's doing. Archon of Cruelty, Exhume, Dark Ritual. Do we just want to try and work through all these Exhumes? Maybe? It's not really what I'm looking for, but... we can't cast this because you already cast a spell, right? Our own Canonist. But soon we might be looking at deploying a Batterskull, and that can actually clock relatively effectively, and we'll have two creatures, so we won't lose one to Archon of Cruelty, so we'll lose one guy, and then we plough the Archon, and then we're okay. There's the Badlands we know about. We're trying to dodge things like Faithless Looting. Unmasked targeting themselves. So they're going to put the Archon of Cruelty into the graveyard, but they can't reanimate it this turn. So they pitched. The Dark Ritual is gone, the Archon is gone, and one of the Exhumes is gone because we took that earlier. Okay. Right, I think we'll deploy the Batterskull here. So we're going to lose our Ethersworn Canonist to the Archon of Cruelty, but then we're going to exile it with the Swords to Plowshares. And then deploy the Deafening Silence, which does a very similar thing, and then hope that we can ride this guy on. I don't have a creature to get back. Oh, actually, we don't get to keep the Deafening Silence, do we? Because we're discarding to the Archon. Sure. Now, our opponent can play more spells if they have them. Faith is Looting. Interesting. What do they get rid of? A Tyrannus Rex. That's one of those every day. Or ever, really. It's a cool card, though. So we'll jam this one out. Get rid of this guy. We're doing our best as a little fair deck. We need to fade a reanimation spell this turn. Trample, Ward, Haste, Toxic 4. That's a lot of text. A pretty cool dude. A Dark Ritual. So this is going to be a Faith is Looting, I believe. Flashback. So if we can get to our next turn, we can have a Saga to protect our Germ token from things like the... Ooh, Serenity. To stop it from getting killed by... Okay, this is interesting. Sorry, I will finish my thought. So it will stop it getting killed by Archon of Cruelty triggers. Because we're going to have a little guy. We have a lot of mana to work with now, though. Ratchet Field Medic. So step one, I guess, is cast it for the front side here. And we'll attack with this and get back a Nihil Spellbomb. Pretty good play. Let's get the Spellbomb. Alright. The Spellbomb won't stop them if they reanimate something this turn because this comes in tapped. But maybe we'll be okay. And this is when I put it into a graveyard. So, oh wow, we got one. So, do I want to change anything? I don't think so. We're just going to get absolutely bodied, I think. So, let's just rock and roll. Okay, so if our opponent tries to Thoughtseize us, we have a backup Spellbomb. If they try for like Thoughtseize, then turn 2 they go, we've kind of got that covered. So we'll keep this. Wish I had a Lotus Petal here so I could Thoughtseize and Spellbomb, but we got stuff here. Our opponent did keep 7 as a Reanimator player, so the chance of us being dead here are, I don't know, about 60-70%, I would say. But we'll see. Do they have a Lotus Petal to follow up, or is this just put some stuff in the bin and then get us next turn? I hope it's a past a turn. That's a Lotus Petal. That's a Reanimate. Okay. I'm going to go for it and draw 7. Yeah. And then I can go to discard and discard some more giant monsters. We're probably going to pick apart our hand with some discard spells first, like Unmask and Grief. Yep, I think we're going to be pretty dead pretty quick here. How do we win this? We need to draw Swords to Plowshares and hope that the massive amount of cards our opponent's got in hand are no good. So bind off a Reanimate for the Grief, which makes sense because they haven't got a lot of life to work with now. They took an Esper Sentinel. Oh dear, oh dear. What are we supposed to do here? There's no point Thoughtseize in them. I think we have to play the Spellbomb out. Because if we Thoughtseize them, they're going to gain 7 and draw 7 cards anyway. So they're going to have a way better hand to do stuff with anyway. So I think we're just going to be looking at surviving for this turn, trying to draw a Swords to Plowshares and keeping their graveyard locked down enough. But they might be able to show and tell this turn and we're going to be dead. Right, 7 of our finest life points. All gone. That's not a Swords to Plowshares. Let's duress our opponent. As we take the show and tell. And we Thoughtseize them. Ooh. Let's tap this for black, shall we? We will Thoughtseize them. This doesn't actually change the clock. So, we'll take the Serenity. We're not winning this game, but we kind of have to still play because there's a very low chance that we win. If we can get rid of this guy and they have to go through their graveyard to win the game, then we'll be alright. So there's a Marsh Flats. But our opponent's going to draw 7 cards here. They could draw 14 cards if they so wished. And that should be able to deploy a monster through all the things we've got here. Just hope all their show and tells are at the bottom of their deck. But even then, they'll go to Reanimate a guy, will Nihil Spellbomb, then they'll just do it all over again with another Exhume or whatever. Right, we're going to lose our other Nihil Spellbomb probably. No, I'm just taking the Kaldra. I guess that's good if they got a show and tell line. There's a Lotus Petal. There's Underground Sea. We get show and telled. Right in the heart. Theirs is certainly better than mine. A whole bunch of stuff. I'm not going to bother trying to click through it because we need to draw Swords to Plowshares and then we need to crack our Nihil Spellbomb, pay to draw a card and then draw another Swords to Plowshares. That's our very minuscule out here. But if we don't draw the first Swords to Plowshares, then we're sunk. If we can discard this Bayou out of our hand, we're also sunk. It looks like they're more on the Tyrannus Rex plan here. They've got another show and tell to fire off when the time comes as well. Say no to opponent's graveyard. We will get an Esper Sentinel off of this, not that that makes a difference. Top card of our library. Is it Swords to Plowshares? It is Swords to Plowshares. Okay. To do this. It was not Swords to Plowshares. I think that's more how the Reanimator matchup should be going for us. Alright, let's go to round 3. We're 1-1. Alright, we've got a hand that goes Thoughtseize into Stoneforge Mystic. It's just some good old-fashioned Magic the Gathering right there. We are on the draw. So things can go wrong for us before that happens. Hopefully it's not another Reanimator. I'd like to play this against some different archetypes. I suspect we're struggling against the big blue control decks, the blue-white control deck, because they'll just be able to remove all the things we do. Urza Saga. Now, what flavour of Urza Saga is our opponent? Who knows? Well, we're about to know. Let's have a look. So this needs to be a Scrubland, I think. Our opponent doesn't have many cards in their hand. Cephalid Illusionist, you say? Understood, opponent. Okay. There's a Tundra. I assume we're going to see a Narcomoeba as well this turn. Oh, they just hang out the Illusionist right now. Interesting. Did they draw a blue card? That would be sad for us if they did. Alright, they didn't. So now it's time to deploy our Stoneforge Mystic. That one of Lotus Petal is going to freak our opponent out. Coming in pretty handy there, weirdly. Yes. Do we want Kaldra or do we want... I think it's probably Kaldra, but it could be Jitte. Jitte is going to take a while to put into play. So I think we just take the Kaldra. We've got some removal in hand. It's a little bit awkward to cast, unfortunately. But we can get there. If our opponent's got a third Illusionist, then we lose the game now. Because they'll just get a Shuko here, equip it a million times, and we'll be dead. Nomads. Sure. We're going to get these Narcomoeba beats. This ball was not really the one. I would like to see what our opponent's doing over there, though. How scared do I need to be? Not that we can really stop our opponent if they can go. So there's the Narcomoeba. I think we need to just get our opponent dead here. If we had another mana, we could do our Executioner's Capsule, but we don't. Our Urza Saga is about to disappear, but it will get us a piece of Graveyard Hate. Okay, so we've got the swords. So I feel, as long as we don't die this turn, I'm okay. What do I want here? Just get the Nihil Spellbomb, I think, is the right one. What am I doing with this one mana? We're playing a weird spell. I'm playing a weird spell. Attacks for 6. Just in a good old-fashioned race. We've got the graveyard covered, so they can't combo. We've got the creature covered, so they can't combo. If stuff goes wrong, we can always plow the Narcomoeba, but we should be winning this race pretty handily. They're attacking for 3, which is 4 turns. We're attacking for 6, which is 2 turns. And we have a plow to back this up. On our opponent's end step, we can sacrifice our Implement of Improvement, because they can't win at instant speed without the Cephalid Illusionist in play. Right, well, they can't win at instant speed at all, right? They need Teferi to do that, to get the Dread Return back. Instant speed. So we just casually draw some cards here. Or a card. Also 2 more life. That messes up the race for them slightly. I was hoping it would dig us nearer to a land. There we go. Let's play out his Executioner's Capsule. Just so we have another piece of removal on board for next turn. Yes, right, opponent. We're playing weird cards. Now, our opponent might have a source of Plowshares of their own, which will change the dynamic of how this game plays out in a pretty enormous fashion, I would say. We will gain 5 life from that, though. Alright, so we got the concession. So, Cephalid Breakfast, you say. I would like Plague Engineers on Wizard. I would like Graveyard Disruption. I would like a thing that blows up as a Saga. Kind of also like these Duresses. And even the Deafening Silencers are pretty decent here too. What is bad? I don't think we need the Fleshgorger plan here, right? Umezawa's Jitte is pretty good. Necrogen Spellbomb is okay if we can get our opponent hellbent. We want to remove the amount of cards in their hands, so I don't mind this. We'll get rid of the Duresses. I'm still trying to find a whole bunch of cuts here. We need to cut one of our 1-drops to fit in this Haywire Mite, I think. And we've got lifelink sewed up for these two, so I think we can get rid of the Shadowspear. That'll get us our Haywire Mite. So far we've managed to include these 2, and now we've got these 4 pieces of Graveyard Hate we've got to think about. I think the Baubles, we're just getting the Graveyard Hate in, which can be cantrips if we need to. I don't even think we need... How useful is the Lotus Petal? Maybe the little slight acceleration of mana is going to be actually useful here as well, if it comes up. Are we going to be grinding that long with Ratchet? Maybe, because these games can end up a bit of a grind fest as it goes on. Let's take out our Lotus Petal for the Spellbomb, and then we need to find one more cut for this other Spellbomb. What are we thinking here? I don't really want to remove a threat. I do like the Necrogen Spellbomb just as a way of slowly stripping our opponent's hand out, but if they have like the Dread Return in hand, they're trying to deal with it, that can be a bit annoying. I do think we can maybe grind through them. Esper Sentinel, maybe. It stops some of their cantrips. Well, it doesn't stop them, but it makes their cantrips a little bit worse. So that maybe is okay. I'm just going to panic and remove something like a Ratchet. We're here to play Ratchet, aren't we? I don't really want to... It's one of these two. We'll get rid of the Implement of Improvement, I think. I think being able to lock our opponent with recurring spell bombs is going to be nice. So what does our hand here do? We're just stone cold dead to the combo, I think, with this hand, right? Unless they're on the Shuko build, but then we don't even have the thing for it. I guess we can make turn 1 Capsule and then hold up the Capsule. And that works pretty well with an Urza Saga plan, right? We can turn 1 Capsule, turn 2 Urza Saga, and then if we don't have to use the Capsule. Alternatively, because they didn't play the thing on turn 1, we could just sneak out this cheeky little Esper Sentinel now. And try and tax our opponent's mana a little bit. If they'd have played a turn 1, what's it called? Nomads in Core, then maybe. Although we're still kind of in a little bit of trouble here, right? Because 3 mana is the amount of mana they need, so we wouldn't be able to have an online Capsule. So maybe we're going to get punished for playing out this Sentinel. And the fact they didn't play Shuko or the Nomads that on turn 1, I think is a good sign for us. I'm expecting a Brainstorm or a Ponder here. Question is, are they going to pay the extra mana for it? If it's a Brainstorm, that's going to feel real bad because it's going to crack their fetch to do it. If it's a Ponder, I think they'll pay the 1. I'm just doing a Prismatic Ending on our Esper Sentinel. Alright. It's interesting to me. Saga. I think if they're worried about the first Esper Sentinel, maybe the second Esper Sentinel will also be good. And we'll jam as Haywire Mite too. We have many ways of interacting with the graveyard in our deck. A Brainstorm. Are you going to pay for that opponent? They are not. A free card. Excellent. They can't win this turn because they would need an additional mana. Sure. That's fine by me. So this turn we can take a turn off from our Urza Saga, making constructs this turn. And instead just see what our opponent's doing over there. Force of Will, Prismatic Ending, Swords to Plowshares. They're a long way from anything, aren't they? So I guess we'll take this Plow. Force them to use Sorcery Speed removal. So I'm going to hold one of these since they seem to hate them so much. We know they can't combo next turn unless they have... I guess they could draw a Brainstorm. That'll probably do it. Well, not probably. They'd need to find exactly the right things. So next turn we can Urza Saga and get ourselves a piece of graveyard hate. So that's another loop, another hoop our opponent's going to have to jump through. I feel we're doing alright. There's a Flow Strand. Are they going to go for another Prismatic Ending? Doesn't look like it. Are they going to crack their fetch land in response? And Fear of Piffin Needle? No, they are not. Okay, so we'll get a Nihil Spellbomb into play. We'll then play a Swamp. Go to attacks. We'll play this second piece of graveyard hate. Brainstorm. It seems unlikely they're going to have anything like Mystic Sanctuary in their deck. It's not normally something that breakfast decks can afford to run. So they're going to ending our construct to buy themselves more turns. They are. That's fine. Our opponent doesn't have an awful lot going on. We'll get Bayou here. Let's try an Umezawa's Jitte. Let's equip this Jitte to our Esper Sentinel. Good. So this means we're going to have removal for their Nomads as well as their Sephard Illusionist if that ever makes it into play. So we've got their graveyard covered twice. We've got their Urza Saga covered with the Haywire Mite activation in a second. What have you got for us? Another Prismatic Ending. This time targeting the Umezawa's Jitte. What happens if I pump this guy in response here? If we pump it, they'll lose the rest of their mana. Sure, let's do that. So they can't pay here, and we're going to draw a card. It's the thing where we have to put all the pump in before they pay. We can't pay a little. We can't put a bit of pump in and let them pay. That doesn't work. All right. White, black. Stoneforge Mystic, please. Kind of tempted to get Batterskull here because it's something we can actually cast. Let's get the Kaldra. They've gone through so much of their removal right now. Say no to Urza Sagas. Let's put another thing that can blow creatures up on the board. And let's do a little attack. One of your finest damages. We have a 2-turn clock with the Kaldra. They could have more removal, but we have seen all 4 endings now, and a plow. So they've got 3 more plows in their deck. If they do have a Mystic Sanctuary, they can put one of those on top, but I don't think they do. We have no need to crack these for extra cards because we're already doing enough to win this game, in my opinion. Here comes the Kaldra. Let's get bashing. We're not a million miles off from being able to cast to re-equip the Kaldra if they do kill our germ token. Okay, land 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1 land away from re-equipping Kaldra. If we don't draw a land, we draw a spell. Okay, so that's a second win on the board now. So we're 2-1. This matchup feels pretty good for us because, yes, our opponent's a combo deck, but they're a combo deck that has many axes upon which we can interact. Our Graveyard Hate is good in this matchup because they're not going on turn 1 or 2. But sometimes they can go on turn 2, to be fair. But we will get a turn before our opponent goes off. So our Graveyard Hate at least has a chance of being able to do something, unlike the Reanimator matchup. So pretty happy about that. Let's go to round 4 and see if we can keep the train rolling. We have no lands, we're going to mulligan. So we're playing against Phil as well, so he could be on anything. Our hand here is not good. Like, if plows are going to be good, then it's fine, but the fact that we can't cast this Fleshgorger means I want to mulligan here. Ugh. Alright, this is the best one of the lot so far. Yikes. 3 of these cards got to go. And then would we rather have a plow or a Thoughtseize? I guess we'll get rid of the plow. Our plan is to play an Urza Saga game off after our Thoughtseize. Once upon a time from our opponent. Caves of Chaos Adventurer. Alright, they're on a strong deck. Bit unfair. Why can't they be on a weak deck like me? No, I think our deck's fine, to be honest. We are on an early build here, so let's have a look. So we've got Fable. I think we want to strip the Fable out here. Try and just slow our opponent down and see if we can get the... Like, if they draw a Soul Land now and they get us, then fair enough. Right, so as a Saga. Let's jam his Executioner's Capture into play. Oh yeah, we got some tech. Some weird cards. I'm going to play this Lotus Petal. We don't know if our opponent has any sort of like Trinisphere effect, so we want to make sure we get in underneath that if possible. Next turn, we make an Urza Saga construct. They've got land now, they do get to make one of their big guys. Another Taker. In case you're unfamiliar with Blood Bowl Sorcerer, this is just a 4-mana 3/3. Takes initiative. We've got some other text, but I've never seen anyone use it. So, right, so that was 2 Spirit Guides. Sure. That's a big one. Now we just kill this now. And we just have to try and ride this Urza Saga. So our opponent's going to scry this turn, which means they're quite likely to find a land and then get the Blood Bowl Sorcerer online. Which is not really great for us, but let's see. If they put them both on the bottom, then maybe they've missed. This is going to be a tough matchup, I would imagine. We do have a decent amount of removal. 1 top, 1 bottom. So one of those is almost certainly a land. There it is. There's the Blood Bowl Sorcerer, I'd imagine, unless they've drawn a Caves of Chaos Adventure in the meantime. Sure. So this is going to go into Stash and get them a treasure, unless they want to cut across for the archives. But I suspect it's just Stash and Skeleton. It's going to be pretty strong here. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Oh. I pressed the wrong button there, so we didn't get to make our guy. That's a huge... Oh, dear. Ah, whoopsie indeed. I thought I pressed 1 and not 2 there. So, how are we going to get out of this little jam? Let's jam a Shadowspear, hopefully. Right, so they're getting a Skeleton. And we got a Caves of Chaos Adventurer to follow up as well. A Fury. So, these would be 2 3/3s. So, we would keep 1 if we hadn't made the mistake. We'd keep a 2/2. Now, do I think we're going to win this game with a 2/2? Probably not. A Plow. That's a real card, at least. So, we're going to get them into Throne of the Dead 3 in a second. And that's going to be real bad for us. Okay. We get to see more of our opponent's deck, which at least help us. I'm pretty sure I can imagine most of the cards on our opponent's deck. Yep. None of these cards are a surprise to me. And they got Caves of Chaos Adventurer. Sure. Then we go back into the thing. We have to beat this 8-6. I don't think we can beat this. I think we can call it a day there. Okay, so what is going to be useful here? Not seeing many things here. Like the Haywire Mite can blow up a what's it called? The enchantment, Fabled Mirror Breaker. So we can get rid of one of those. If that's the thing we want to do. Like we can have duresses, but I don't really like duress that much because I guess we can hit some Chrome Moxes and stuff, but they're mainly on Soul Lands and Spirit Guides. So we can just dress them and miss relatively often, which I'm not hugely happy about. Prismatic Ending can clear those things up if necessary. What would Haywire Mite be better than in this situation? I think Plague Engineer, just as creatures that have Death Touch, is fine. And Haywire Mite. These are the three things I'm considering to put in. I don't think Canonist is actually that good in this matchup, so we'll just do a clean cut there. Because when they do play multiple spells, the first few ones are artifacts, so it's not really doing anything. Alright, we did mull pretty hard there against a very aggressive deck that doesn't give you a lot of time to rebuild. So let's see if we can get a Ratchet in play and do some cool stuff. We've got a Bauble. So we've got a redraw. This doesn't feel good. We don't have any way of winning the game here. I think we should mulligan. Are we doing it again? This time we do have the Sentinel, which is possible to be a redraw. We can chuck back one of the Haywire Mites. Yeah. I don't like it. I'm going to have to go along with it. So we'll go for this. Sure. Once Upon a Time response. What are they going to find? We've got Forest on top. Let's have a look at the top card of their library. Another Forest. Okay. So at least it's not action, I guess, but please draw a land or a spell. Okay, Source of Plowshares is a good spell. If our opponent gets initiative, we can kill it and then attack with our Esper Sentinel, get our second land. That's not the end of the world. If our opponent plays a Chrome Mox and doesn't necessarily follow up with anything too exciting, we might hit the Chrome Mox. Magus of the Moon. Alright, that's pretty good. We will play a Haywire Mite and pass the turn. We will not be attacking into the Magus of the Moon. We know they've got 2 more lands in hand. They pitched 2 Spirit Guides. There's the Snow-Covered Forest. They've got a regular forest there. I don't think they'll attack. As a Saga, we will not be playing that one out. So this game heavily favours our opponent because they get to cast their spells. There's the forest we know about. We're just going to sit here and stare at each other for a little bit until they draw the 4th mana and play one of their big scary things. Alright. Once upon a time, I assume they're going to pay here. They don't want us to draw out of this situation. A tiger. Okay, so our opponent's probably going to enter the dungeon this turn. That'll be my expectations here. Fable of the Mirror Breaker, paying 1. Okay. No extra cards for us. Would have been a great turn to draw planes. I'd even settle... Actually, no, we don't have a basic forest in the deck, do we? Do we have a basic forest? I can't remember now. Alright. So our opponent should be able to win the game in about 3 turns, I would imagine. Because they're discarding some cards here. They're probably going to find a big creature and smash us down with it. We have just kind of got mulliganed into oblivion in the first game, which is unfortunate. Minsk and Boo going away. If they're throwing away a Minsk and Boo, how good is their hand? Jeez. What we got? Another Magus, sure. That means they can start attacking with the first. If they wanted to. Sure. You can have some treasure. So they can play a Minsk and Boo playing around Esper Sentinel next time if they want to. Thoughtseize. That's not the one. Alright. How dead are we? Is this the Minsk and Boo turn? It is. Alright. So we don't have a lot of time left in this game. So we'll take 6 here. And then we'll draw nothing of use. A Scrubland. Yep, this is 7. A Blood Bowl Sorcerer. Sure, this just finds them a land right now. It doesn't matter. We're dead to the Minsk and Boo anyway. We didn't get to play Magic in either of the games, really, which is unfortunate. I think our matchup here is probably okay because we've got a decent chunk of removal and we've got creatures to take the initiative back with. But not like this, right? Okay, so this is going to put this guy up to 8. Alright, on to the final round now. It was a bit of a miserable one. Let's see if we can get a positive record. Into the final round. We've got an unkeepable hand to begin with. Let's mulligan. Alright, this is a good hand. We'll keep this one. I think we'll probably get rid of the Spellbomb. That's the least exciting one. We're kind of just playing like a normal deadguy Ale style thing. But we got plans here. Our opponents start out on a Polluted Delta, which is going to be usually... Okay, so we're on Death Shadow. They've let it be known what they're up to. So if they Thoughtseize us here, they're probably taking our Stoneforge or our Plow, I would imagine. But depending on their hand, they could also be taking a Thoughtseize. But we do have to lead out with our Bayou to Thoughtseize our opponent. But if they take the Thoughtseize, then we can lead out on a Verdant Catacombs. They took the Plow. Interesting. Okay, this is good. We can fetch out basic Swamp here. Right, Thoughtseizing our opponent. What do we have here? Yuck. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Not a fan of these things. I guess we take the Thoughtseize and take our chances, right? They don't find a black source. And just get our Stoneforge Mystic down. Oh, please don't draw a black source. Now, they might miss our Mystic. Alright, the Wasteland. We've dodged that bullet then. This will get us a plane, so we can play around the Wasteland for now. Let's see if this will do enough for us. Let's just get the Kaldra. It's going to be hard for them to beat a Kaldra. We need them to dodge a black source. They got a blue source. Okay. So Murktide, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is coming. Alright, our opponent was very unhappy with their mana there, so they've decided to sack it off and try again. I like Graveyard Hate against our opponent. I don't know if we want all of this Graveyard Hate though. What did we see? We saw the Hymn to Turex, which makes me think they're more likely to be on the Brazen Borrower plan. So I'd rather have these Plague Engineers for the Brazen Borrowers. They can also trade with the guy if necessary. I'm not even sure if I want the Fleshgorger though, right? Because I don't want them to... Them targeting this could actually be really bad for us. So we'll replace those with Engineers. That's a weird situation that's come up there. I like to be able to Scarlock my opponent, but life is good. Haywire Mite, probably not the one. So we'll have another Nihil Spellbomb. The Executioner's Capsules can kill the Murktide, but they can't kill Death Shadow. Maybe we're supposed to strip these out and then just have a few bits of Graveyard Hate. We don't need loads of Graveyard Hate, but these are fine because they can trip. Like the... Maybe we don't want the Soul Guide Lantern, actually. Maybe we'll have one Executioner's Capture in. Jitte and stuff. All these things are fine. We could run Powder Keg to blow up their 1-drops, but we've got Prismatic Ending for that, so I'm just going to submit. We'll mulligan this one. So this hand does a thing. We'll keep this. We're probably chucking away the Shadowspear. Right. So our opponent's starting out with a Watery Grave into a Ponder. These decks can run Opposition Agent, but they don't tend to run Dark Ritual stuff for them. So we can lead out with this and we don't have to crack it immediately. I think the chances are we're just going to be holding, like playing out our Windswept Heath and maybe keeping up a source to Plowshares in case our opponent... Although if our opponent has a Doubting Voidwalker, I'd rather Prismatic Ending it. Because Swords to Plowshares is more flexible and can deal with Murktide when the time comes. But it does force us to not play our Urza Saga. But we can make that assessment when the time comes. Not a big fan of drawing that, but there we go. We'll play out our Windswept Heath. Do I think our opponent's going to have Stifle? I'm just going to crack this now and just get a basic Plains. And just not mess about with any sort of random Opposition Agent added nonsense or... Stifles or anything like that. I do like Stifle as a card. I know it's not great. And I've definitely told people to stop playing it, but I do like it as a card. So look, Hymn to Turex. That's not a very friendly Magic card. Oof, it hit double spell. Yuck. Why couldn't it hit one of our rubbish swamps? Alright, our plan is Urza Saga this turn. We're probably going to get wastelanded now. And then him wasteland. Is that what we're going to see? And then a Murktide, which we can't kill. Understood. Because our Swords Plowshares went away. This doesn't change the clock, so we'll fire this off. Another Murktide, kind of annoying. Fatal Push, also kind of annoying. Brazen Borrow is kind of the easiest route to apply more pressure, so I think we'll take the Borrower here. We'll leave their cards up here. Okay, Brainstorm. I wonder what they put back here. So they played the Wasteland out. And they're holding up Fatal Push, we'll take 5. If that him had hit a different thing, we'd have been alright. Okay, so we have a Plow now. And we'll play out our basic Swamp, just in case our opponent has a Spell Pierce. It's pretty much free for us to play around. Can we Swords of Plowshares this guy? Okay, so another land. That's fine. They do have a Murktide Regent waiting in the wings. They're getting close to casting it. A Stoneforge Mystic. We know they have a Fatal Push, so I don't really want to play the thing into this one. Alright, we're going to name Bird. Just in case they have any Baleful Strixes. So they might try and Fatal Push our guy. Oh, they got a Sudden Edict. That's worse for us. That means they still have the Fatal Push potentially kicking around for the Stoneforge Mystic. Going to be tough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they can play a little Murktide. It's going to be what? Just a casual 5/5 fire for 4. That's a pretty fine rate. Okay. Let's find an Executioner's Capsule, maybe? I think we play this out. Because of the Fatal Push, I think we have to go and get ourselves a Batterskull. We're not going to crack our fetch land. We want to save that for when we're playing the Batterskull to make sure we have all the mana available. So we're going to take 5 here. Then hopefully next time we can deploy the Batterskull. Take another 5, and then we can kind of be at parity-ish. But if they hold their guy back on blocks, then we can't attack. But if they hold it back on blocks, they can't attack. So they might save their Fatal Push for the Batterskull token, but I think you just want to hit the Stoneforge. Yeah, there you go. Make us have the land for it. That's the correct play in my opinion. Ponder. Especially since maybe we have a different equipment because we didn't play the Batterskull. So hopefully we don't draw a fetch land. A Lotus Petal. It's not a fetch land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they can grow their other Murktide. But we don't really have any other play. So I guess we'll get another planes. Jam this guy. Cycle the Street Wraith. Okay, they can definitely just make a Murktide. Alright. We can't pay. So they can make a Murktide, which will grow their first one into lethal damage. I'm pretty sure they still have that second Murktide. I don't believe we saw them shuffle anything away. Might be mistaken though. No, I didn't keep track of when that fetch land went because it disappeared pretty quickly. Okay. That's not the one. So, another game. We do have a lot of graveyard hate, right? We've got 3 Nihil Spellbombs. Do we really want some Soul Guide Lanterns in there as well? Like the Executioner Capsule would have been fine after the fact then as well. I think we were just a bit unfortunate to get stung by the... Maybe we'll drop a Jitte for a Soul Guide Lantern maybe. What do you want to try? Drop this for an Executioner's Capsule. That's nice. Have that back in. Now, we didn't draw any of the graveyard pieces we had in instead of the Executioner's Capsule anyway, so it didn't really make any difference for that game. But yikes, this is for all the marbles. Can we get the positive record with Robotguy Ale? We've definitely learned quite a lot playing this though, so I'm going to have a nice little debrief afterwards. This hand does not get on very well against a Wasteland, that's for sure. I think we have to mulligan this. Alright, we'll keep this. One of these has got to go back. Probably our Scrubland. And just play on basics to begin with. being able to drop Esper Sentinel on the play is pretty good for us. Just good enough for a Force of Will, perhaps? I don't think so. But I'll take a 1-mana him to Turak if I can get it. I don't think our opponent needs to play a particularly quick game in this matchup, so I would be more inclined to just let this go through and hold it for something like a Stoneforge if they have the Force. Alright, we're in. Watery Grave from our opponent. Paying 2 life. Thoughtseize? No play. Alright. That's some shenanigans right there. So they're basically trying to hold up for Force of Will. Play this as a Saga. Go to attacks. Our opponent does benefit from us hitting them a little bit, but we will need to reduce their life total to 0 to win this game. So it's kind of a bit of a weird push and pull. Because we have the Prismatic Ending and the Source of Plowshares, we're not actually that bad against Death Shadow right now. We've got 2 pretty clean answers for it. What slowing the game down does do is it means they're going to have less cards put into their graveyard. That not being a wasteland is very nice for us. Dress down is certainly a thing that will really annoy me, but whether or not they're running it, I do not know. Are they playing Snapcaster Mage or that new Fairy guy? I would trade this for the Fairy guy or Snapcaster probably, so I'm saying that after I've already attacked in. The decision was made, and then I was justifying it after the fact. That's what's happening there. This could be an end of 10 brainstorm, a fatal push on our little boy. Poor little boy. Sure. We have slowed that game down a reasonable amount there, though. Might regret not having a... Do I have a Shadowspear in? Check my sideboard. Did I board out the Shadowspear? I did not board out the Shadowspear. That's good. Let's see if we get blown out by a dress down. It's like it's not an enormous blowout. It's just very annoying. So this will get us a Nihil Spellbomb, I think. I don't think we're in Shadowspear territory just yet. We just want to keep the Murktide off the board. With the removal we have in hand, these 2 3/3s can win the game for us. And we can deploy an Executioner's Capsule to buff them. Yep. Sure. It wasn't a dress down. It was the same effect. I guess they don't get to cantrip off it, which is something. A little bit mean. Turak. Not the easiest one for us to answer, truth be told. If we draw a land, we can name human, though. We did not draw a land. Let's play out a Nihil Spellbomb. And play out an Executioner's Capsule. This can answer a Murktide. Force of Will, pitching Murktide. Okay. Interesting. That doesn't answer the Turak. Means our Plague Engineer is more likely to resolve. We need to not be discarded. But him to Turak would make me very sad. How do we beat... I guess we can block it with the Plague Engineer. But not ideal. Don't hit me, bro. Blue, blue. Okay, we're just having a little Murktide. That's fine. We got a white piece of removal in hand. We could have spellbombed away to stop that from happening, to be honest. That was a bit loose of me again. I was too busy thinking about this Turak. Last game of the night. Right, let's try and get rid of this. We can play around the days. Force of Will gets us pretty good here. Okay. We'll play out an artifact. We need to try and get this Plague Engineer into play. We can get a Stoneforge Mystic and put Jitte into the... Oh, we brought out Jitte actually, didn't we? Because we didn't see the Turak. Yeah, we can get a Batterskull though, and that'll... Oh, this is such a good draw for our opponent there. Ugh. Yeah, we're punished for not cracking that Spellbomb because we could have had Stoneforge Mystic in play. Now, they would have discarded the thing that we got with Stoneforge, which would have been kind of annoying. They're going to pump their Turak, so they don't need to take the Plague Engineer. Now, the Plague Engineer can just block. So the Stoneforge can race this. This can trade with it. And these things are blank. So, alright. That's what's going. Sure. Let's just take the 3. Right, we don't really have a choice about that. Can we draw a land, maybe? That'll give us access to... Okay, Belfast Strix. Not super fine, but fine. Ratchet Field Medic. I don't think we're ready for that yet. I think we might have to get Kaldra now. I think that races quite effectively here. It's a black creature, so it gets to trample over Turak, or it can block Turak. Sure. Okay. Our opponent is going to get over the line, I think, here. Pluto Delta. Purple Strix, yep. Maybe we can draw the other Plague Engineer. That'd be pretty good. Name a bird, and then it can trade with a Turak. But we need to draw a land for that first. So I think we are... We do have a lifelink guy we can play, because we can play this for the backside. And then we can crack the Spellbomb to turn it into a lad. And then bash, get some life, return Executioner's Capsule, maybe. That can get rid of a Murktide. Or we can get a Sentinel. Or we can get the Spellbomb back and try and draw some cards. We got some options. They're not great options. Right, so we're going to lose 4 life this turn. If only we had our own Death Shadows, eh? 2 cards in our opponent's hands. That's forcible blue card potentially. It's not forcible blue card. Okay. But this is a 2-2. Do we have to Prismatic Ending this now? If we can draw a land, that'd be great. Did not draw a land. I think we have to Prismatic Ending this. And we'll sacrifice this and draw a card. And hopefully find a land. Not find a land. Okay. We've got a Shadowspear in play. If we can get a guy and equip some stuff to it, we can do some racing. Or stabilizing, as it's probably going to be known as. Our creature being white is not very helpful, though. Necrogen Spellbomb. So they've got lethal coming in. We have to plow this to survive, which means we can't cast another spell apart from this one. Yeah, so we have to plow the Baleful Strix. We're just going to get beaten down by this Turak. Yeah, that Thoughteize a strip play agent was good, but we didn't hit the land for it anyway, so I think we're just getting killed by mana screw. Yeah. It's unfortunate. Protection from white is a good ability. So we go to 1. How are we going to beat this Turak? We have to beat both of their lethal threats here. We finally drawn the other land. Do any of these gain us life? No. We need like the Implement of Impediment to gain life here. This can't block because it's white. We haven't got any black creatures we can get back. So this doesn't do enough. So we have to draw a card. This doesn't get rid of protections. It's just hexproof and indestructible. This is close, but not good enough. I don't think. Because our opponent's just going to fly over the Baleful Strix and get us. I don't think our opponent's going to make that mistake of not doing it. Also, this is a white creature, so they're just going to attack with the Turak anyway. Yeah, they got us. Ugh. Awkward. Yeah, the him they got us with in game 2 was a real beating. Let's talk about the deck. So we went 2 and 3. Not a great record, but we kind of lost to ourselves a fair bit. I think that Death Shadow matchup where we didn't have the mana in the second game was a bit awkward. Now, they did hit us with like a really good Hymns Turak that hit the plow out of our hand. If it hit anything else, I think we'd probably win that game. But hitting that plow was just brutal for us. And when we played against Phil on the red-green initiative, we mulliganed to 4, and then we mulliganed to 6 and just got Blood Moon on turn 1 and didn't get to play the game. So, fair enough. And we lost to Reanimator, which I imagine is always going to be a bit tricky with the way our deck is set up anyway, because they can just kind of come out the gates blazing. But we beat Breakfast very easily, and we did beat the Reanimator when they, for some reason, had a transformational sideboard I don't think was where they wanted to be. Let's chat about the deck then. There's a lot to talk. So, I think we've learned quite a few things from this. The first one is, this is not enough lands. I think we need 24 lands and include the Sagas as spell slots. Now, we can have some of the lands that sack and draw you cards to stop you getting flooded, but it feels like we quite often have a decent chunk of things to do with our mana, right? So we're putting in equipment, or we're paying to draw from our spell bombs or whatever. So I think, and you know, we've got capsules and things like that. So I think having a bit more land is probably okay. The Fleshgorger never really got to do anything, sadly. But it was just there to see what would happen, really. Maybe it'd be better off as another Esper Sentinel and another thing to do with the Ratchet, perhaps. I do feel that this deck is a much worse Ratchet deck than the one we played before. I think you want to lean into Ratchet quite a bit. Before we were playing a blue build, and it kind of felt like we were playing 8-cast, but with Ratchet trying to be Emery. And I don't think that's right. This build, we're trying to play... The reason I don't think that was right is because Emery is kind of... In blue, Emery is more or less a better Ratchet most of the time. However, this time we tried to sort of do like making some guys, messing with their hand, killing their stuff, and just use it as a value engine. But we never got to do anything with Ratchet this entire league. Now, we didn't really draw Ratchet, so that's not really Ratchet's fault. But I don't think this deck is set up in the right way to be a Ratchet deck. I think you need to lean quite heavily into it. So do like the blue Emery decks, but in other colours. Because the reason why it didn't work is because Emery was just better. But Emery is blue, so we can play a non-blue deck. So we don't have to try and mess our mana base to get this Emery going. And we can just have this Ratchet and have a load of stuff to support it. So I think we need to be looking at trying, you know, having more baubles, that sort of stuff, having more petals so we can sort of get out ahead feels like a better plan rather than just trying to play this deck that also has this Ratchet engine in it. Never really came to a place where we wanted to be. We're mostly just sort of like an Urza Saga Stoneforge Mystic deck with some disruption and removal. So I think we could, if I was to play a Black White Ratchet deck again, it would look a lot different. I think I'd be going up more Lotus Petals and being a more sort of explosive, draw a load of cards off of your baubles and do some stuff. I would be interested to try a more green heavy build with some of the things that reward you for sacking artifacts. There's 2 cards that do that. One of them is the Squirrel and the other one is Teething Wormlet. I think I would be interested to try that sort of build out. Maybe that's just going to be a green-white build, so we're not going to have hand disruption. But we will lose the Necrogen Spellbomb thing, but we could probably just be playing Mox Opal, and it's going to be not that hard to get the black mana. So I think that's something we could think about. That's probably where I'd like to take this next time I play a Ratchet deck. I think this was a bit of a failed experiment. I think if we'd had some more lands, like I think if these 2 were just lands, maybe that would have been a better shot. So if these are like Horizon Canopy type lands, so we've got a little bit of draw if we get flooded out, but we're going to be able to hit our 3-drops and things. Maybe that'll be better. Like, our curve is pretty low, but we have a lot of stuff we're kind of doing with our mana, whether it's activating Saga or activating spell bombs. I think we could probably do a bit better than the setup we have here. I think the person who donated this list, they didn't donate this list. They donated me to build another Ratchet deck, and they sort of gave me some of their lists. And I think one of the lists they sent me was just a better version of what we're playing here, but I wanted to sort of see the other angle, because the last Ratchet deck we played was all about trying to do Ratchet things over everything else. And this one was trying to fit Ratchet into a shell. And I think what we should be doing is a middle ground, where we're playing a deck that's good with Ratchet, but then we're also making a lot of use out of the things that are good with Ratchet, if that makes sense. So like something that's good with all of our baubles and petals and things like that. So I feel that's probably going to be a stronger deck. So I've already got part of this deck written up for where I think this should go, because it was one of the options I was toying over, and I think that one would be a better shout. Even though losing hand disruption and the Executioner's Capsule recursion would be a little bit sad. But I think that's probably a better place to be. Sideboard wise, I don't think there was anything wrong with our tools apart from these. We were playing these because they're good with our thing. We said at the beginning that we don't think this is what we should be playing, and I think we conclusively showed that it wasn't. If these were ley lines, we might have been able to beat the Reanimator player in round 2, I think it was. Although they did show and tell us in the end, I guess, actually. So maybe not. So I do think the ley lines would just be better, but maybe we're not that sort of deck. Honestly, I don't think this is the deck you should be playing with Ratchet. I think you can build a good Black White DECKLIST style deck. I think you can build a good Black White Ratchet deck, or a green, like an Absan Ratchet deck. I think those decks sound good. But I think smashing them together like this, just having it as an extra engine, doesn't quite work. Now, that being said, maybe we got a bit unfortunate sometimes. You know, the hymn went the wrong way and we just kind of mulliganed to oblivion in one of the rounds. But I think we can have some more land, and I don't think the things we're doing here necessarily is the best use of the Ratchet either. Alright, I think we're done talking about this one. It was quite an interesting experiment. Obviously, for a first completely untested brew, we did win 2 rounds. I said if we could win 3, that would be absolutely brilliant. We didn't, so we kind of hit where expectation was, more or less. I was expecting 1 to 2 wins, so we hit the higher end of expectations. We didn't surpass it to the 3 ones that I thought would have been an amazing result for this deck. But I think there's some good learning here, and I'm glad I played this deck and I sort of saw for myself firsthand what works and what doesn't, and hopefully my donor's pleased with this one. Alright, if you would like a donor deck for my channel, you can get in touch with me via the Discord link below to join my Discord, and then just send me a private message and we can sort of work out what we're playing there. For the rest of this month, I'm charging £15 for a donation deck. I have limited spots because I have regular things that I want to do with my channel in terms of my midweek meta deck, and I like to play one of the decks that I like to play once a week. So I only have 3 slots a week, so they fill up relatively fast. But if you're interested, by all means get in touch. Alternatively, you can just join my YouTube membership, or you can become a member of my Patreon just to say thank you for making content. I think it's like the only thing I've got on Patreon at the moment is just like a £2 a month type thing. So that's pretty good value, right? £2 a month for 20 plus videos. But obviously you don't have to. My content is always going to be free for people to access. But if you're in a position to help me financially, I'm always appreciative. All right. I think I've rambled enough. So hope you enjoyed this one. And thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.